Glad you could join today's Q&A with Innovators and hashtag Black STEAM. I'm Gerard. Let's get inspired. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another part of our Black Excellence, hashtag Black STEAM and Innovators. Today, we'll be talking with Joel Lewis as he talks about his business and, again, how COVID and all those different things are affecting it amongst these times. So as you guys have probably seen before, we'll do a Q&A, a few questions. While we're doing this, you are more than welcome to use the hashtag Black STEAM to put in your thoughts, questions, and we'll be sure to answer those when we get the opportunity. Welcome, Joel. How you doing?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Do you want to do a little intro about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name is Joel Lewis. I work for county government in the criminal justice side. Love my job. I'm a social worker, so I work with people, and especially people who are disadvantaged or who are in the system. I've been doing that for a while. I live on a hobby farm, and I have 4 kids. It's nice to be able to have a space where you can kind of like step out of your hectic, chaotic world and then have a space where you can kind of just chill and enjoy life. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm not originally from Wisconsin, but I've grown to like it.
Cool. Actually, that's my first question. Where are you from?
So I'm originally from New York, New York.
Okay. And what was the process of getting all the way to Madison, Wisconsin?
Yeah. So my wife is from Wisconsin, and we've been married for 22 years. So that's pretty much the process. Is that we met in New York. We ended up getting married, having kids, and Wisconsin is like the 3rd state that we have been in. And really the whole thing with Wisconsin is that we wanted to find a place that was, I guess, family oriented and kind of slower pace and just a different vibe. So that really is what Madison, when we checked it out, we're like, this is pretty good, because we experienced other places. So like we had comparison and, New York is pretty much fast paced. It's expensive. Cost of living is really expensive. And it was just, I know I wanted to change. My wife wanted to slow it down, even though she's from like the area. So that's what really got us here to Wisconsin.
Awesome. I hope you're
finding that lifestyle. Yeah.
I hope it's been the best state of all.
I mean, I'm still a New Yorker at heart.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's the best state. I have to say that, like for me, New York is still my home. It's always been my home. My parents still live there. I have friends, family there. But I do have to say, Wisconsin is where we are raising our kids, and it's definitely a great state. It's up there.
Is there any pizza places in Wisconsin that beat anything New York?
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. There's only one that's kind of close, and that's Ian's. Ian's Pizzeria is the only one, and I've tried so many pizza places. Now, if you have some like some suggestions, I would love it. I really love, again, it's hard because when you come from a place where like food is just different and authentic, all types of food. I'm talking Caribbean, Italian, just American, just tons of food. What's good food. So when you come to a place and the food's just okay, it's hard. It's hard.
Have you tried Salvatore's yet?
I've tried Salvatore's. I like that. I've tried a couple places. Salvatore's. We just tried one in Windsor. Actually, there's a country club that made some pizza, and it was okay. My thing is that I like sauce, but not too much sauce. But the thing is a lot of pizza here is too bready, and that's the thing, and that's what's hard for me. Yeah. I don't know. It's okay. Like I said, it's okay. I haven't found any that's been like the bomb. Yeah. Like if I could keep going back multiple times, then it's a wrap. Then it's good.
Yeah. Well, maybe you need to open up a spot here and show us what that really is. But yeah, so today obviously we want to touch base about your hobby farm business and how that's going. So so my first question about that was, how are you overcoming the challenges current due to COVID-19? So I'm not really sure exactly how you guys were connected with community and stuff for that, but yeah, I'd love to learn like how it's been affected and all that.
So, and the whole thing with Upstart, we were trying to get our business going and just kind of getting ideas. So when I started doing the hobby farm, it was more a love of just doing these things and obviously creating it into a business. I raise chickens. I used to raise chickens for meat, but then I did started selling eggs. And it's cool. I mean, it's not hard raising chickens. Like, I mean, even, getting chicks and raising them and, but our whole thing is about, organic, natural, free from like pesticides. We're even talking about like medication. We don't medicate our birds or anything like that. A lot of people do. We just look at it like if a bird can't survive, then it's not meant to be. We don't need to pump it full of like medication to keep it surviving. So the bird should be healthy. That's one thing that I was doing. I used to be a beekeeper. So I used to sell the honey and I made chapstick from the beeswax, and I stopped that about 4 years ago, just because if people know, we have bees have a hard time surviving, not just in Wisconsin but all over the country, and there's theories why, but it just started becoming difficult, and the amount of money I was just putting into maintaining bees, it went past like just enjoying it for what it is.
Mhm.
And then financially, it just started becoming more of a burden. Now, I do have to say, I do miss that. And a lot of people actually reach out to me and say, Joel, when you gonna get those bees again? We want that honey. Because when you have raw honey, I'm telling you, there's nothing like it. So I would suggest people try it if they can, like local honey. My new adventure is goats. I want to get some goats. I just finished making my goat pen, and then I want to be able to milk them. And with the milk, goat's milk, some people drink goat's milk, lotion. A lot of that stuff is hyperallergenic. Even drinking it, if you do drink goat milk, it's not so harsh to the stomach. Like doesn't, the lactate and stuff. So that's my new adventure. I haven't done it yet. Goats typically are born in the spring, so it's coming up. So it's new to me, but in terms of how it's affected me, I mean, obviously my chickens, the weather affects that. When it gets cold, chickens don't tend to lay as much. So my egg production is low, so it's hard for me to sell. So a lot of times it's just I cut off my production around this time. So it would be nice to have something that's sustainable through the year. I also garden. When I say garden, I'm talking like tractor land gardening. So it's big plots, a big plot. But I try to do a lot of stuff like that so I can be able to put it out and, try to market it to people or sell it to people. So I guess to answer your question, I guess for me, in terms of being affected by COVID, I don't necessarily think COVID affected me yet. I think if this continues and we don't have farmers markets or we don't have outlets to be able to meet with people and sell stuff, I think that's where it's going to be more of an issue if I'm trying to sell my stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so you kind of already talked about what your business is and all that, and you kind of talked about how you joined as part of that, but really what inspired you to really get a farm going and do these different things and try to get goat milk and all that?
Yeah. So typically, the thing is that I've always been that type of person. So, even when I grew up in New York, we're talking about NYC. So New York, I didn't live in the city. I was outside the city, but a half hour, 45 minutes outside. But basically, it's not typical to have a farm, that type of thing living in like New York. But I've just always enjoyed like a simple lifestyle. What I mean by simple lifestyle, I don't necessarily mean not doing things. I just, nature really inspires me. My mom got me into gardening. In the beginning, it was kind of like forced. I didn't want, she'd make me weed the garden and stuff. I didn't want to do it. But then as I had my own garden, it's funny. I pick up a lot of her tips and like what to do when you're putting plants in and that type of stuff. And then I've also had an experience where I used to go to Christian summer camp in Pennsylvania, and it's basically you're out in the country, out in the woods, you're canoeing, you're fishing, you're building relationships with people. And I really just like fell in love with that because I'm an only child. So it was just really nice to be around that, right? It kind of, you got away from that chaos and like just the repetitiveness of life. So it was good. So that really got me into that. And then every state we moved to, I was always looking to be out in the country or being able to get property or land to be able to recreate some of these things. But again, cost comes into it. It's really expensive. It's not like we're rich. So we really didn't have the opportunity. But then when we moved here to to Wisconsin, we were blessed. This property just fell into our laps. It was affordable. And like I said, it was just like, there was no question. So that's how we ended up here. And then when you live in an environment like this and you know that you could do whatever you want to do, you just do it. So like if I feel like doing something, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just like that in life anyway. But it's really nice here where there's really no limitations.
Awesome. How many acres are you working with?
So we have 5 acres. We own 5 acres. We're surrounded by 80. So a dairy farmer owns around us, and then the Dane County shooting range on 19 is behind us. So it's like vast. So we have all this space. Not saying we use that space, but what I'm saying is like there's not like we're not crowded by like homes and that type of stuff. And there's only farms really much around us. But then you go down the street, then you have like subdivisions and stuff. So
yeah, I was just about to say you're like you have your own space, but you're right down the street from the life.
Oh yeah, I mean even like proximity to like the interstate and like where we're at, it's pretty cool. It's definitely we lucked out. We were very fortunate.
Awesome, cool. What does it mean for you to be Black in this work, like doing these like farms and stuff like that?
I think for me, I think about our ancestors, right? I think about, farming is not a new concept, right? I feel like African Americans back in the day, and even some now, farming is what their families did. My family's actually from the Caribbean, so they didn't really do so well, different farming, but it's different. But for me, being Black in this business, it's just like I'm usually the odd person, right? There's not too many people. So when you see a brother, like on a farm talking about goats and bees and doing all this stuff, that's not typical. But what I'm saying is that if you really look at our history and you see parts of the country where farming is just a way of life, it's normalized. But I do have to say, I think it's also cool because, I feel like I'm doing something, moving things forward in a way that, maybe it hasn't been done before in this area. I know in Milwaukee, there's actually a lot of, when I say farmers, I mean like they do have community gardens, that type of stuff. They do have plots of land. So you can consider them farmers. But in Madison area, I don't think it's really abundant. I think I'm probably, if there's any more out there, reach out so we can connect. So
That'd be awesome. Yeah, thank you for doing that because that's awesome. When Katie from Upstart told me about that, I was like, what? There's a Black dude that does farming down here? Like you just never see that because like at the farmers market, like I mean, you usually typically see white, Asian, and that's about it. And yeah, it's just amazing to see how the Madison area and outskirts is being able to kind of take that turn and have some more representation in these different things that you typically wouldn't think to see, especially in the Wisconsin area. So
No, you definitely won't. And I do have to say though, it's not even just about farming. It's about a lifestyle, right? And again, simply living 24/7, meaning is what that means is that that's spiritual, that's physical, that's mental. So all those things is really incorporating a lot of things into your life. And I think there's so many things that us as Black people really need to kind of step back. Because if you think about health, right, in terms of the things that we eat, right, we're kind of like a society where it's like go, 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 right? So we're eating fast food, or we're eating foods with nitrates and sulfates and, unhealthy stuff. So it's just like being educated and kind of knowing like the type of things that are good for us and not good for us. But even that, being able to afford it and realizing that you don't need to have 5 acres of land to be able to eat healthy, right? You can do a planter box and grow your own vegetables and know how to grow your own vegetables. And it's very simple. And it's just like by introducing those things, you cut back on, heart disease and high blood pressure and cholesterol and all those things. So it's really about that teaching is really more what I really enjoy. I would love to have somebody like kind of go through my day as well and kind of learn stuff, because that's what I like doing. I like learning from other people and then, using what I've learned for myself, but then passing that knowledge on. But I think the biggest thing for me is more about like just trying to teach others, especially the Black community, about the benefits of these things. So it's not so weird.
absolutely, yeah, and that's where that STEAM comes in. I think a lot of times when we had these conversations, we don't think about how this is actually affected by STEAM or STEM. And like there's so much science in what you're doing on a daily basis. And like, you typically just hear farm and like you just like a lot of people just will keep it as farm, but you just kind of already talked about the basis of like learning the process. And there's like different things you have to do. Like, you can't, the typical person can't just go get a goat and like milk it. Like there's a process to that. And that's,
Yeah.
and that's that learning piece that STEAM movement.
And I'm learning. And I think the cool thing about what I like about this is that it's not like I know somebody who's an expert with goats, right? My thing is that I see a goal, what I want to do, and I go after it. And then I try to use my community to figure out. Best thing is YouTube. Honestly, I mean, the information you can find on YouTube is crazy. And then it's kind of like trial and error. You do something, you learn, oh, that's not the best, let me do this. Like one thing for me, I didn't realize this with goats, they get parasites a lot, and it's because of what they eat. And the thing is that you have to figure out how do you treat the parasites, right? And it's usually the what's in the ground. And depending on your property, if you don't have too much property, they're still eating the same grass or same stuff. So you have to think about how do you treat those parasites? I mean, because you can't allow those parasites to stay in them. But if you're coming from like an organic or natural place, you don't want to use chemicals or medication that probably is some sort of it probably is toxic to get rid of those parasites. But if you don't get rid of those parasites, you could possibly, your goat gets sick or it ends up dying. So it's kind of those things like I didn't know that. Thought you just got a goat and you milk it, right?
Right. It's never as easy as it just seems.
Yeah, I know. So yeah.
Cool. Let's see. What was my other question for you today? How does one begin this process? So you kind of already talked about it, about like the, finding the land, but like what was that process like finding the land and being able to start this whole ordeal?
So you talking about the process of home ownership, or you talking about the process of starting a business? What do you mean by that?
Kind of like a mix of both, like the kind of how did you go about like finding the land, and then, how did you turn it into a business?
Okay, so I think the biggest thing is this, right? So you have to get the piece of property first. And I think obviously, this is our third house that we've owned. So we've built up our credit. Our credit's good. And we were able to get access to or availability to land. Right now, I have to say, we moved here about 9 years ago. So we had access to that and there was land available. Unfortunately, with Dane County, land's very expensive. So I think that's where the problem is. A lot of times people have to go outside of Dane County just to even be able to afford land. So that's number one. Number two, I think when, we worked with a realtor in terms of trying to find, and they knew that we wanted a lot of land. So you could get a house that has property, but the problem is you also have to understand that there's like regulations and rules in terms of what you can and cannot do. So in the city of Madison, you're able to have bees, you're able to have chickens, but there's limited amount. Where I live, there is because it's a farm and it's labeled as so, I'm able to have more than the average person is allowed to have. So it's just those things, those nuances, so you can kind of understand that. But then when you start, you have the property, I think it's really just about figuring out what you want to do. Just say you want to do bees. I think obviously you want to take a course. I took a course, Madison. They had a course. I took that course. And then after that, I was just kind of connecting with people in the community. And I just got my first hive. I had no clue other than that course what to do. And I just did it. Now, year after year, I think you learn. But what happens is that don't forget, you still got to buy this stuff. You got to buy the hive. You got to buy the equipment. Hive meaning like the bees. Then you buy the actual hive itself, the bee hive, and then just all the other equipment and the honey processing and all that stuff. You could do it for a cheaper amount, but again, like with any hobby, things start adding up. So I think the thing is you really just have to, and I think this is where my wife got in. She's like, it's nice when you have a hobby farm, right? And you just do things for you. But when you try to make it into a business to sell, there's so much more that goes into it. It's not just about your love of doing something. It's more about, okay, are you spending more than you're actually getting in terms of when you're selling it or your time? And I think for me, I don't necessarily mind my time, but the problem is that this is not my full-time job. I already have a full-time job. This is just something on the side that I do. So between that and balancing family, doing all that stuff, it's just like you kind of really have to figure out what you're going to do. I would personally love to make this a full-time thing. Will that ever happen? I don't know. Maybe I might. I don't know. I guess it depends on what the future holds. But right now, it's just more of a, I don't want to say hobby, but it's more of a hobby that's turning into a business that I'm hoping that can be more lucrative in terms of like supporting us.
Awesome. Well, who knows? Maybe after this, then you just take a huge leap. So get ready to have that milk ready.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. What advice do you have for a younger generation who you may have inspired today?
Keep dreaming. I know that sounds kind of cliche, but I think sometimes we give up on that. We feel like, we have to be practical. I think back. So, how old am I? I think I'm 47. So, I didn't think back, but I think the thing is where my wife and I landed in terms of where our life is. When we were younger, and I'm talking about 20s and 30s, we just kind of did things that meant something to us and we went after it. And then, obviously some things worked out, some things didn't. But the thing is we kept going on. So I guess my thing is that you want to make sure that you continue to dream and then try to make your dream into a reality. I think everybody has opportunity. It's just you got to tap into that. Don't let people tell you that you can't do something. And even if they do, that shouldn't dictate if you're going to do it or not. I guess I feel like, if you're going to fail, fail. It's okay to fail. How do you think that you grow? Now, you also need to be smart in the sense of you don't want to bankrupt your stuff on an idea that's not really going to be lucrative. What I mean by lucrative, I'm not saying getting rich, but I mean in terms of giving you dividends back. So it is, you need to be smart that way. And it's also cool to have people who believe in you and who support you, because it's that what keeps you moving forward, but it's also that where you can kind of connect with people to help you maybe make your dreams come true. So I guess that's what I would tell young people now, and put down the phones and the computers and all that stuff. Go outside.
They kind
Right?
of if people if the same people are watching all these videos, that kind of negates the first interview I did, because I said, like, if you're gonna use your phone, at least use it for something constructive, because you got so
Yes.
much information in there, instead of using it for social media. And actually leading up to that, what is the best social media to kind of keep up with what you have going on and be more connected with simply living 24/7?
So, okay. So for us, I mean, because of my age, I use Facebook. I know Facebook, people look at that as like an old person type platform, right? Versus like Instagram and like
Hmm.
Twitter and all that other stuff. And but I guess for me, I like Facebook because I think a lot of people like that connection with people. A lot of people use that to connect with other people that they might not see, that type of thing. And we've actually did pretty good with that. Like I actually have another thing that I did on Facebook. It's called Foods During the Pandemic, Favorite Foods During the Pandemic. And I know that food brings people together. It's kind of like breaking that bread with people. And it's just amazing how many people like flock to talking about like what they're making for dinner, things that they've tried, all these other things. So Facebook has really been a platform that I felt that has been really lucrative in terms of that. Because when I tell people I'm selling something and I put it on Facebook, even my people from New York, they reach out.
Hmm.
So Facebook, I have to say, is the thing that works
Okay.
for me.
Cool. Well, y'all heard it. Y'all better go to Facebook, and I'm going to Facebook and watch out foods, because I need some new dishes. We've been eating the same dishes over and over, and it's starting to
Yeah.
get a little bit too old. So, well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate you spending time with us for the Discovery Outreach team, as part of our Saturday Science event and slash Black History Month celebration and excellence. For the audience, remember, if you have any questions, comments, or anything like that, please use the hashtag BlackSteam. Joel will be able to get to those questions as soon as we get them to him. And we appreciate everybody's time. And we hope you guys enjoy this time with us. And we hope to continue these partnerships like this and others that come out of Upstart. We kind of didn't really touch on that. I'll give a brief background about that. Upstart is a organization is a organization. I can use that word because it's an organization that touches with folks of BIPOC and women, and to help them be able to develop their business moving forward in many different factors. So a lot of these videos that you guys will be watching will be folks that come from Upstart. So if you want to learn more about that, please do your own due diligence or research on that one. Joel, do you have anything else for us today?
No, just everybody should treat each other with respect, right? I look at it, it is Black History Month. We all can learn, continue to learn. And thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, y'all. Have a good rest of your day.
All right, you too. Take care. Thank you.